Welcome to SELINTalks, podcast initiative by SELIN Club. Today, we are honored to have Dr. Manjula Pooja Shroff as our guest. Dr. Manjula Pooja Shroff is an accomplished entrepreneur and educationist with a diverse and dedicated experience in the field of education. She is an alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad and also holds postgraduate degrees from York University and the London School of Economics. She has founded and successfully operated numerous education institutions and social projects, making noteworthy contributions to the society. She is the host of her own podcast, which focuses on MPS in education. In today's episode, we will be discussing the importance of MPS in education and her experiences in the field. We're thrilled to have such an accomplished and respected guest with us today. Please join us in welcoming Dr. Manjula Pooja Shroff to the show. First of all, thank you so much for being part of SELINTalks. It's an honor, and I am very, very excited for this episode. How are you feeling?
Well, I'm equally excited because I love the fact that you guys are doing podcasts on education. I think podcasts are a way to go, right? Because you're just assuming so much importance. It's a great way to start talking to the community. And anything on education I've been a passionate person where education is concerned. So every opportunity to talk about education is just right up my sleeve.
So to begin with, I would really want to ask for our audience about your journey entirely. How did it begin? How was it? And where did you actually start from?
So I come from a princely state in the state of Orissa. I grew up, in my ancestral home, which is on the border of Orissa and Andhra Pradesh. And I went to school in an Irish convent. And then I went on to do college, which is a big story because in those days, women in our families did not have an opportunity to do higher education. Let's say there were pushes and pulls, and I somehow managed to get into higher education. And then, there's a lot of destiny involved because I managed to, I was in Delhi at one point, and then I came to Indian Institute of Management. And then, a lot of my entrepreneurial, educational, what we now call edupreneur happened here in Ahmedabad. So that's been a lot of twists and turns and highs and lows, and here I am.
Wow. Could you tell us what inspired you to start your own education institution and become entrepreneur, as you said? What inspired you to do so?
Right. So, like I said, I almost did not get education myself, at least higher education. And way early when I was a young girl, there were questions burning in my mind as to why there should be a difference between men and women in the way they are treated, in the way they can present themselves, in the activities that they do, even to the level of education that they hold decision-making power. There were a lot of questions in my mind, right? And if you might want to imagine a princely state where women are very celebrated, women are, really porcelain dolls and kept behind the scene, right? So you want to imagine a situation like that. So, I had this full of questions. And somewhere there, I kind of realized the value of education. I mean, today I talk about education as a means to transform society. Today I talk about education as a power to, for self-empowerment, for not only progress in education, but even, in economic world. The baseline, the very rock bottom is education. Today, I know that. But even in that young mind, somewhere I knew that if I had education on my side, I could make not only a livelihood, but a decent life out of it. So somewhere in my young brain, call it, basic DNA intelligence, or call it, instinctive intelligence, I knew and I always understood the value of education. Right. So having gone through that path myself, I realized at every opportunity that if I can create opportunities for people out there, who can transform their lives through education, I think I would have come a full circle. And that's where I not only started the Calorex, which has, mainstream education, which does state board, national board, international boards. But the important part is we also have schools that cater to special learning needs. We also have schools that cater to below the poverty line. Because like I said, my aim was to provide access to education because I have understood how critical that tool is to transforming anything.
Very true. I mean, I think the young self of yours will be very, very proud of yourself right now. I can
Been
only
very
imagine.
gratifying, for sure.
Yeah. You're also an author. Do tell us about that.
So I've been written upon. I mean, I'm not sure that you can call me an author, but I'm definitely a person who has a lot of opinions and thoughts. I run a digital school called Shroffism School,
Yes.
wherein I actually talk about these things because, I mean, I have had let me say, the good fortune or the bad fortune to have understood death very closely at a very young age. And I've always asked myself what's the purpose of life and have sort of figured that out. And that is where I started the digital school post COVID because I saw two things happen in post COVID. A lot of people actually dealt with death. I mean, the way death is supposed to be completely unpredictable, we dealt with it, right? And a lot of our, ways of thinking were shattered. We thought that good medical care, good doctors, money can buy all of this, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And the post-COVID world, the people who survived are now a slightly more spiritually enriched lot of people because they had absolutely no other option but to rely on what they could not see or hear, which is the intangible force. So I have always been a spiritual person. So that's where my journey started. And, this is what I call the MPS in education. And that's where my journey started to try to teach the purpose of life as early as possible.
Very true. I think a lot of people, lot of us, if we did get the entire purpose of life, or even in the basic of understanding of it, I think we would have been doing a better job in giving the society back and in our lives. There are so many things that any person with any background are facing, and they don't have the access or the tools to actually work on it. So I think that's a great, great initiative. Tell us about the MPS in education. How can it be a tool? How can it be used by education institutions or professionals who are into this arena?
So, interestingly, my name is Manjula Pooja Shroff, right? And so we've been using this hashtag MPS all the time.
Yeah.
Just so happened that when you look at a 360 way to grow, it has to be mental, physical, and spiritual. And that's
Right.
how we kind of built this acronym, call it, or hashtag call it. And it just worked out because it just dovetails into my name. But this is also something I genuinely believe in, that one has to have a holistic, rounded growth. One cannot grow in any one direction, right? And so let's just start with the M. Okay, starts for the mental or the cognitive abilities. Now, for students in the classroom, we are teaching so much cognition, through the subjects, through the, English, science, maths, algorithms, coding, all of that, right? I think what we are missing, and that's where the MPS in education stands out, is children have anxiety. Little children have anxiety. I mean, if you start at a very, very basic age, like a kindergarten, they have an anxiety called, my friend is not talking to me. And that just elaborate that anxiety to a middle school level where they get into harmless romance.
Yeah.
Take it to a higher school level, and if it is unrequited love, it gets into love crimes. How do children handle this? Who's teaching them? Let's talk another thing. Sometimes education or classroom can be extremely overbearing, extremely stressful for children. It's not everybody's cup of tea to be, in the first 10 rankers, etc. Right? So these children are struggling to keep up. These children are struggling to make a mark, are struggling to be accepted by the teachers and the parents, etc. Right? Who's teaching them the inner motivation? Who's telling them they're supposed to do what they're supposed to do and why?
Yeah.
Right? Let's take another example. The children, we teach them in class, they go for tuition, they go for test preps. I mean, their lives are really crowded, their timetables. Somewhere along the way, we are forgetting to teach them how to do self-learn. For the longest time, somebody or the other is guiding them, somebody or the other is giving them instructions. So when they go to college and suddenly they are on their own, who's the anchor?
Yeah.
So somewhere within that mental faculties, we need to teach all of the skills. We need to help them look inward. Another thing is, who we think we are, right? Who's teaching them what to think? Who's teaching them that thoughts create action? Thoughts create your realities. Who's teaching them that your thoughts and your emotions can either make you a happy individual or a depressed individual? Who's
Right.
teaching? And if teachers are not doing it and parents are not doing it, how will they learn? So the question just on the mental side are these bunch of questions. And then there is a physical side, and then there is spiritual side. And if you want, I'll be very happy to elaborate all of the three.
For sure, please.
So
I'm
now
sure this will be very, very helpful.
So life is like a 360. I always say this, it's like a pizza. So we can't live a slither of it. We can't live one slice of the pizza. So if people are just great students and getting A grades, that's just one slither of your life pizza, right? Of the whole. That's just one part. Now, if you're very strong on the mental capabilities, let's move to the physical. Who is teaching them the value and the discipline of exercising daily? Who's teaching them that if you exercise daily, the dopamine, the adrenaline that flows in the body will make you a happier, better individual? Who's teaching them it is during the time of examination stress that you should exercise because your body will support your mind? Who's teaching them that the food determines your mood? If they're eating sugar, what happens is the sugar spike. There's this whole science that says the taste buds in our tongues are distributed for different tastes. So, there's a portion for sugar, there's a portion for sour, salty, etc., bitter, etc. Research says that the sugar receptors are not only located in the tongue, but through the esophagus all the way to the stomach. So what happens is when children just have sugar, the sugar receptors kind of, start dancing and asking for more. It's a physiological, biological condition. It's not that they have addiction to sugar. Now, the food manufacturers have understood it. And so in everything, in every packaged food, there's a little bit sugar. Now, the minute the sugar gets into the body, it creates a spike of energy. So you start to feel a high boost. But the minute the sugar is absorbed in the blood, it also dips and causes low energy and low moods. So children are swinging, mood swings are happening. Now, somebody needs to tell them that it's the food they're eating. It's all connected. It's not like that's disconnected, right? Now, throughout the COVID, there were people who stayed strong immunity-wise, and then there were people who kept falling ill. It has something to do with the food that you eat that boosts immunity. Who's going to say this to children? How are they going to learn to be healthy individuals? So, you are what you eat is a term, and it's so true. So on the physical side is the exercise, the food, all of that, right? I think children need to know it because it's going to support their mental capabilities, their studies, their moods, the way they think, the way they react. Now let's come to the spiritual side. In India, spiritualism is possibly confused with religion. And
Yes.
so, we don't do this open coffee table discussions. We just hide behind that. And there's absolutely no need to do that. Spiritualism is a way of thinking, is a way of life. It has nothing to do with religion. Everybody has a right to follow their religion. But there's a common way to behave as an individual. And that, to my mind, is spiritualism. So all of us are born with what we call the DNA intelligence. What we say, the chromosomes of the body carry intelligence. There'll be times that you've never read something, but you just know the response.
Yeah.
Where is that coming from? It's not the mind intelligence, it's the body intelligence. So everybody has a body intelligence, but we are so confused with the things we see on the social media, what we hear, that we don't listen to our inner voice. Children have to be encouraged to listen to inner voices. It's a shame that children are dying because of low marks in board examination. My God, when has board examination determined anybody's career? Who remembers? Do you remember what grades you got in board in 12th grade?
Not at all.
Even the parents don't, right?
Yeah.
But look at the pressure. We have young lives at sacrifice. People are dying just because we don't teach them.
Yeah.
So, this is inner voice within everybody that needs to be encouraged. Call it sixth sense, call it whatever, but needs to be encouraged. And these things are doing the rounds, and that's why I'm going to use it. You've heard the word FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. And the youth is so much there. There is another flip side to it called JOMO, the joy of missing out. I think you need to teach kids to get there.
Yeah.
And there's yet another word called YOLO.
You live only
You only
once.
live once. Yeah. So we need to talk to the kids in a language that they understand. But the wisdom is age old. But the wisdom has been there for centuries.
Right.
And unless we as educators, unless we as parents reach out to them and talk about the entire pizza, the MPS of life, the 360-degree living, balanced, centered, I think that we are not going to be creating the right kind of students, children for the future. We're going to be creating lopsided individuals who don't know how to balance their emotions and the thoughts because we just haven't taught them.
Yeah.
And that's why education is not just about marks. It's not about a curriculum. We'll do that, all of that. But this is where we need to focus. I think there's a gaping hole here. There's a wide gap in people, educators, understanding in what we need to teach children.
Yeah. The things that you're talking about, the MPS, and like you said, there is this very small thing. If the kids' friends are not talking to them, and there's a crippling anxiety that every factor, every questions that you have put up, it kind of has a very, very big ripple effect in adult life. Like you said, like people are confused with their emotions. Let's just take example of physical health. A lot of times you spoke about sugar. A lot of times when people are telling just cut off the sugar, it's making you fat. There's no fact in it. There's just shame in it. So because of the shame, people tend to eat more. Like there's a whole entire mental trauma, like a taboo attached to it, and all of that. Rather than that, if somebody had explained something like you had just now, would make so much sense. It makes so much sense to me. Imagine if I were taught in a way, the way you're talking about, if every individual back then was taught like that, a lot of us will not have, body issues. A lot of us won't have anxiety issues. A lot of us won't get panic attacks in random days just like that. And like you said, spirituality, I mean, there's a very big confusion. Like, you have addressed it very well, actually, and very politely, I must say.
No, I'll tell you honestly, because I believe it, because I live it. It should never be confused with religion. See, every religion has the same purpose.
It does.
The destination of every religion is the same. Therefore, it's about a way of life. And it's really, really unfortunate. I mean, today teenagers have so many issues. There's vaping, there's body shaming, there is, this whole social media thing. Children need to be balanced. There is peer pressure, there is birthday party pressure. My God, there is gadget. Children have become addicted to gadgets. This lack of respect for parents. Where will the children go? And that's where it bothers me that we are not helping our kids look inwards. Because all the answers are inwards. And the earlier we do it for children, there's that much less unlearning to be done.
Very true. Very, very true.
Because they're like sponges, they'll just absorb everything. So the earlier we begin, the better it is. And thankfully, I'm at a space where we are looking at K-12 education, and I have begun this conversation like wholeheartedly with my teachers, because I believe that unless I, first change the mindset of the teachers, I can't trickle it down to the classroom.
Yeah.
So through the educators, like I said, we are having trainings for our faculty, we are having trainings for parents, and through my digital school, we're talking all kinds of stuff. One of the courses I have called Monkey Mind. The mind is a monkey mind, and it keeps jumping from place to place. And how can you actually bring it to focus? And if as adults, our minds are like monkey minds, how will the children go?
Yeah. Imagine that. And how I want to really ask this. You have started this conversation. You're doing all the methods in your institutions to bring forward the change. How should one, if an educator, if a person, let's just say even an individual, is very, very interested to bring this change forward in a child's life, how should they begin with? What would be like, let's just say, a blueprint of it, if there is?
Right. So, in my digital program, so I'm trying the best to put out what I have, right? In my digital school, we have what we call conversation with parents.
Okay.
My bad. Conversation with children. Parents' conversations with children, right? So, right from early ages till about teenagers, what are the conversations you can have? Because we believe that you and me are just having a conversation, right? But we are making sense to each other. Your own child, like I talked about, let's just take the example of anxiety, right? Now, if the parent or the teacher is mindful of that, they'll have conversations surrounding anxiety.
Yeah.
I'll give you a very, very small, but it's a very, very interesting example. Toddlers, there is a whole session on toddlers talk. We believe that, children are not talking to us, therefore there is no conversation possible. This is not true.
Yeah.
If you remember the Mahabharata of, Abhimanyu's story, he heard it from the womb. Listening is equally 50% of conversation. So a toddler, there is, and it's there in my program, they're afraid of wardrobes. A toddler is afraid of wardrobes because one is the wardrobe is like a bottomless place. When they go there, it's like they can get lost in it, right? Because they can walk in and then there are twirling things and stuff like that. So, these little kids have big, wild imaginations and they can believe that there's a person standing in every cloth. Because it's all different forms and shapes. They can't tell from the tangible and the intangible at that stage. Their mental faculty development hasn't happened.
Right.
Now, a mother or a parent needs to understand the psychology of development and explain to the child and not force the child to go into the cupboard until such time, A, as the child understands, B, as the child is developed. I'll take another example. We call it motor coordination, right? This arm here, there's a muscle.
Yeah.
Unless this muscle is developed, the child cannot write.
Right.
But some schools force the children to write. And then Children are yelled upon because they're not writing the sleeping right, the stranding line or the slanting line or the sleeping line straight. They cannot. It is about muscle development. The awareness to parents is more important than what happens to a child is because parents are not aware. And that's where I have at least started to say, what are the conversations you should have with your children based on their development milestones?
Wow.
So at least we'll have emotionally healthy human beings. See, going forward, we just need to create emotionally healthy human beings.
Very true.
Padhai, Google will teach.
AI also.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. AI will make sure that padhai ki zarurat hi nahi hai.
Right.
You know, I mean, Elon Musk is talking about a wearable device that will have all information.
Why do we need
What do you
Padhai?
need to go to school for? What is the need for padhai? They're talking about having chashma that has all the information.
Yeah.
What will you do with padhai? So these things, this disruption is going to happen in the world. What will not happen is the emotional state, because it's going to be a long time before bots and robots acquire emotional intelligence.
Yeah. I think the first time I heard about emotional intelligence as a subject was my MBA. So that many years of education, and I did not know, never realized how important it was. One did not know the concept at all. So that's a very while you're talking, there are a lot of things when I kind of you go back and realize, okay, this has also happened. Maybe if this did not happen, I would have been like those conversations keep taking place while talking. So many instances where the handwriting thing, I have a very big thing. Like I was in school, it was my first day or the second day of the pre-play school, and the teacher was asking me to write. I could not, because I just could not. And
Yeah.
then they went on, there was a whole thing कि आपका बच्चा लिख नहीं पा रहा है and all of that. And then there's a label to it कि थोड़ा weak है. And it has stayed with me because till now I remember. That's the fascinating thing all about.
It's sad, isn't it?
It is.
Because it's just a development goal, and every child grows differently. Some children are ahead of the curve, some children are, behind the curve, and there's nothing wrong with it. They'll all eventually catch up. But by saying that usko likhna nahi aata, wo thoda slow hai, this that, you create a scar for life.
Yeah.
And this is all just lack of awareness.
And I think the bottom line is that itself. If somebody actually learns what are the development stages of a child, what is even possible for a human body after evolving for thousands and thousands of years can do, and not letting everybody getting pressured into it, this world will be a better place.
And especially for the teens, I mean, I don't know if you remember your teen years. I'll tell you, we use this term saying the teens are riding like on 7 horses. The bodies are going through so much change. So there's physiological, psychological, uh, emotional, social, biological, all kinds of changes, hormonal, everything happening in that body, okay, in a teenage body. On top of that, they are looking for acceptance from their peer. They're looking for acceptance from their, teachers, from their parents, from the elders. All of that is going on. And because of all of those changes, they will slip. They'll make some mistakes. And we come down with like a ton on bricks on them without just understanding that this is this is a development stage. And when they feel not understood. If they feel that they're standing alone, they feel that, that's when they turn to stuff like, vaping or external or smoking or alcohol. Why? Because they feel like nobody is there to support him.
Yeah, I think 100% of the teenagers have the same feeling. Not a one person I can even vouch for. Like, no, I was mentally healthy, I was emotionally healthy. Not a single person. I don't
And so
think so.
these conversations, even by creating awareness, I mean, at this stage, I'm only talking to the parents and faculty, but my next stage is just to go and talk to teenagers. Just make them aware that this is what is happening. These are the body changes that are happening. You predictably, you'll feel these things. Now, be aware, get a hold, don't react, just let it pass. You'll come back on track. Somebody needs to have these conversations, and that's my next milestone. I just want to kind of get out there and talk to the kids themselves, because they're old enough to understand. And it's a very circuitous route for me to talk to parents, and then whether they understand it and talk to children or not, whether faculty is busy doing their curriculum completion and don't have time to teach life. So that's next on my cards. But like I said, I mean, every drop in the ocean is going to count. I mean, so at least we have a lot of, we have a good reach, thousands of students coming to Calrex's group of schools. So let's see how it goes, but this is the journey anyhow.
More than anything, I think they will feel heard and not alone. That's the biggest thing that carries for life. One time a teenager would decide that मुझे कोई नहीं समझता, the entire life goes around that. I have seen it destroying so many, people's mental health, getting into a lot of things, and that's just a small thing कि कोई हमें सुन रहा है. That's just it. And it takes forever. It takes teachers, it takes parents, it takes peers, it takes friends. नहीं हो पाता है. And then imagine a person who's standing and telling them, I understand. I think it will be like a very moving moment for you. And I'm excited for that. And anytime you do that, please, if there is a possibility of inviting, please let me know.
I'd be very happy to do that, because, it's always in the sharing that we teach.
Yeah.
It's never about theory. It's never about that. And so more and more people like yourself, who thankfully reaching out to educators and have seen so many life stories, that you've got, a rich set of experience yourself. So it'll be I'll be very happy to set up something and, have you talk to the kids, because what we teach them in class is fine, but it's through these live sharing, tell me your story, that kind of things, that the maximum learnings can happen in a shorter period of time. So yeah,
Very
I'm very
true.
happy to do that with you.
But a lot of us also, we go through YouTube, we're learning about celebrities, we're learning how they have struggled, we get it into it. That's how we are taking inspiration from them, good or bad, however it is. But it's like you said, it's the life sharing that actually matters beyond the classroom. Really, I am moved.
Thank you. No, seriously, I'm so happy. I'm so happy, because it is very meaningful. This work needs to get done. It is just so, when you look at the kids and how aimlessly they're going sometimes, it's really painful.
I really wish there was something like this, because it's every generation that suffers. Every generation has its own ups and downs, the pros and cons and everything. But the teenager, they always they have that area where they are not heard and they're not seen.
Yeah. And more important, why the biggest challenge is because there's so much changes happening within themselves, that they're so young. They don't know how to handle it. And on top of that, if they have external pressure, I mean, how will they handle it?
When we think about it, it's just a chaotic mind going through. Like, people are not considering them adults, people are not considering them children. They're stuck in the middle of a random chaos that is not even created by them.
Yeah. Yeah. And the best part is, in a year, like in 12 months, 18 months, it'll settle down. That is the best part, right? आप कुछ करो तो will it'll settle down. आप कुछ ना करो तो भी it'll settle down.
Yeah.
But somebody needs to tell them that, guys, just hang in there. It's about just hanging in there for this period. That's it. It's not like you have to go and shake the earth even.
I think this is the first time I'm having a conversation which includes teenage, awareness topic, because there is obviously there is early childhood education that is very very important, there is early childhood development that is very important, then there is college very important. But the middle first wo beach ka hi wo bichare, they are not able to get into it.
And that shapes a lot of who they become later.
For sure. Like when I'm telling you, while I'm talking to you, there are a lot of things that I'm going back and reflecting on the same time. And trust me, if somebody, we had a group, and if somebody would have told us that it's okay for you to, be like this, it's completely fine. You're not an adult right now. You don't have to handle it. You just have to, ho jayega, it'll pass.
Yeah.
If somebody would have said it, no, it would have made our lives so easy in terms of mental. I mean, obviously, a lot of us are privileged, a lot of us are not. All of those factors are there. But in terms of emotional health, I think that would have made the biggest decision, because as soon as the person goes in college, they feel so alone. I have been listening to this. Even my younger siblings were talking about it when they were in college. We feel so, bad that there is nobody, there's no friend. The whole scenario takes place again. They're in a depressive episode for a year, and then they have to catch up. It's insane when we think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. You've done these interviews, and you know that in the West, the highest number of suicides are in college
Yeah,
due to loneliness, and which is why I'm saying somewhere we did not teach children to look within. They're looking for acceptance everywhere except themselves.
outside matter right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, they're looking, they want to belong, they want to, they want to prove themselves. I mean, not that that's not important, but they need to know that that'll happen. If you get yourself together, it will happen. You don't need to chase that mirage. And what bothers me the most is all of this wisdom is very Indian.
Yeah.
We've had this wisdom for centuries, thousands of centuries, but we are not using it. That is the saddest part of it.
Lot of things, the simplest of things are closest to us, and but we don't see them.
And kabhi, all of this information has to go abroad, and somebody else will churn it and repackage it and then give it back to us. And that is, I mean, this is, I, you know, that's why these things have to be spoken about. Have
Yes.
to be, as non-threateningly, as neutral conversations, because it's not about any agenda except universalization of a human being. Every
Wow.
human being has to be a universal being first.
Wow, you have coined the term so well, because we keep saying we're the humans of the nation, we are the citizen of this nation, we are being this and that. And then a lot of people do move abroad. They kind of, obviously, like you said, they are lonely. They're always constantly going for external factors to kind of validate the feelings. All of us have been there. I mean, not a one person that I would know have not moved for any some reason and not felt, non-validated in some kind. But the universal, like you coined the term, it is so good. I think this needs to go out. It should go out aggressively.
Yeah, it will. I'll tell you why. Because what is good, I know, I mean, in the world, there is a lot of, one has to do the stuff of marketing and stuff like that. But, if you do, my belief, we are only trying to do good to another person's life. If we can really create this breed of emotionally healthy, intelligent teenagers, the future will take care of itself.
For
And if the
sure.
intention is so good, like they say, that the entire universe will back you. So, fingers crossed for that one.
Counting myself lucky to have this conversation altogether, because a lot of us are talking about equality, equity, inclusion. There's a lot of social conversation that are going around, which is brilliant in that sense. But the major the वो बोलते हैं ना, building का foundation itself is not there. That is what NPS in education should be. That's the foundation. If the foundation is not great, you can't have a building of equity and inclusion and different things to be worked upon.
Absolutely.
You have opened
Absolutely.
my mind.
Absolutely right. And at the end of the day, it is one thing. If you just get that the whole pie, the MPS pie, if you solidify it, you can build anything on it.
For sure.
It's like
Even
the
in
Lego.
organizations.
Exactly. Anything you can build on it.
Yeah.
It's so simple, but the universal truths are as simple as this. It's just that one thing. अगर इसी को solidify कर देते हो, you can build a mansion, you can build a tall rise, you can build a cottage, you can build a water body, you can build anything. Because no matter what life will throw at you, you have the solution which is within.
Yeah. I'm going to for sure. I'm not just saying this because we're doing it as a part of a organization that we have, but honestly, personal level, I am really, like you said, very small thing I'm telling you is going to stay with me, the sugar part, because a lot of us are suffering in terms of actually aligning our physical goals, our mental goals with reality. But when we think like that, when we pull out facts, when we pull out what is good for us and which is not working for us and all of that, I am really, really honestly from the within individual goals, I'm going to try and focus on MPS myself. Only then I will be able to talk to other people, not just hypothetically, but on a reality coming into words, not the other way around.
And that's when you'll make an impact. What's reaching you, Shruti, is the way, because I live it. If it was pure theory, it would still reach, but a lot of it would, kind of brush off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when it is spoken, because of its undiluted format, because of the way you are, it's at the being level. It just from one being to another to transform. It's
Yeah.
completely like on a highway. And that's why it's reaching you, because I genuinely believe that unless you do this, society will go in a different direction.
Yeah. And now I'm sure it is going to be very, very beneficial for the viewers, but to I am moved and I think it shows and it will create a bigger impact. And I am going to start doing those things first and then think about an impact. Because if I'm not doing those things, that's just life.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. If I moved into action, my job for the day is done.
Thank you, because these are very normal things that we have overlooked, and suddenly it has just it. All of these three things, especially, are the main causes of our happiness and our sadness. We have chosen how to deal with it. I think
Correct.
that's the crux.
Correct. And we are responsible.
Yeah, no other person.
No other person. And we need to teach this very young. बच्चे एक बार they figure this out, life, they are sorted.
कितना sorted हो जाते हैं हम लोग we were
तो
taught.
सही बात है. सही बात है. कितना sorted हो जाते हैं.
It wouldn't take us trips to different places to realize, oh, we need peace.
And maybe it still will, because everybody needs a reminder or, reorientation. All of that is fine. But the basic core would have been sorted.
Yeah. Unlearning, वही है ना, like now we have to unlearn a lot, like
Lot.
years. Now, if we do that for a kid, it would be just one year or 2 years unlearning that needs to be done.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True.
I am telling you honestly, this after this conversation, I'm more energized. There is a lot of things that are running into my. I'm open to a lot of it because I was honestly wondering how can MPS be in education, because MPS is talked about in a very different dynamic altogether. I was very, very keen. Tell us about your podcast because I heard one episode.
Gee. So through Shroffism, I'm trying to reach out as many handles that I can. Of course, there is the social media, there's the FBs and the Instas of the world, there's the Pinterest. But podcast is something that a lot of the young gen or a lot of audio people listen to. So as part of the Shroffism, I run something called a daily dhi.
Yeah.
Dhi is a Sanskrit word which essentially talks about intellect. It's a word, how it is. It's about samadhi.
Right.
So, right? Samruddhi. So in everything there should be intellect. Even if you take Samadhi is, the final state of being, but there has to be intellect to that. Samriddhi, even in wealth, there has to be intellect. So the word dhi essentially means wisdom, intellect. How are you using your mind to go to the next level of thought? And on a daily basis, I kind of, release daily these. So there's a daily dhi, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's in print form, it's in video form, it's in podcast form, it's in all of that, right? So those are just general thoughts on a daily basis to keep us on track, because our lives are so, hijacked. The moment we wake up till we sleep, there's just something or the other push pull happening. So
For sure.
just a little thought, just like a little 3-minute to put you back on the track towards MPS goals. So that's one thing I do. And then stuff that is more on a way spiritual pathway of being, how purpose of life kind of conversation. And then there is part which, this is exactly it, MPS. How do you detox? How does detox help the brain? Why should you have an open mind? How does water help? How do you negotiate? All of that, just the MPS. How do you grow as a 360-degree balanced individual? So the podcast is doing exactly this in smaller doses, because attention spans are very reduced for people. Essentially trying to reach out in whichever way that works for a human being. So that's how the podcast.
I heard one, and honestly, I'll tell you what, it felt like a guided meditation. Just needs to go out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your precious, I say, what, Amrit ka things to us.
No, thank you, Shruti. Thank you. You're being very, very. No, I know you're not just doing it. I can see it. I can see your honesty in your responses. So I'm not going to say that you're just doing lip service or because you have to say. I can really see your expressions. I can feel your emotions, right? But I'm just so glad to have met you, because you're sitting in a place where you can make a difference, because you're reaching out to a network of educators. And please bear this in mind and influence as many people as you can, because we need a big group to start to do this. It's not anybody, any one person can't do it.
It's a movement, like you said. We have to join. There is no other way around.
Exactly. There is no other choice. If we are all meaningful people working in this direction, there is no other choice. And the COVID has taught us that we have to go to the root. See, ये सारी चीज symptomatic है. What the child is saying in teenager or whether in college, what is happening is a symptom. If we don't go to the root, the symptoms will happen. We need to fix the root.
For sure. Like I said,
the very base.
Usually what happens, I have set of questions, you have answered, okay, thank you, that's about it. And not that I don't do it with my whole heart there, but there's a conversation that is taking place right now, which is so important. And it has never been spoken about, is what my shock is.
Yeah, I know. We need to talk. We truly just really need to talk. I mean, I have been talking about, we can't shy away from, whether it's vaping. Like I said, I started to talk on conversations with children. I said, let's talk about sexting. Let's talk about intimacy. Let's talk about love crimes. Why are we hiding? It's happening there.
Everybody's seeing it. It's on the news. It's on Facebook, Instagram,
We are
Google.
not teaching, but we are not teaching.
It's the curiosity that kind of plays a very big role, how to make it negative or positive also.
And so somehow, how to handle the information, how to think, what to do, what not to do, hamara kaam hai. And if we are going to shy away from talking, kaam kab karenge if we are shying away from talking? And to be fair, it took me a while, but beyond a point, I was like, now enough is enough. We just have to talk.
You're going to be our torch bearer for this, honestly.
I'm so happy to. I'm already doing my bit. Thank you for being part of it.
It opens so many runs of things that we have been doing, thinking, oh, what will happen? What can we do about it? It's all there. Everybody's doing it. But everybody keeps thinking everybody is doing it. Nobody's going to make it.
Exactly. Somebody has to start and people will join. Somebody has to start. No, but I'm truly very, very happy.
Thank you so much for your time and so much. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. I feel very, very privileged to have
Thank you.
had this conversation.
I'm so happy that you had this conversation with me. I'm so happy that you moved to action. That is my biggest gratification for the day.
I am going to like because I'm telling you a switch kind of flicked and I'm not going to stop.
Thank you, Shruti. Take care.
Thank
God
you.
bless.